Very cool. Let me tilt this up just a little bit. All right, everyone, welcome to the May meeting for Solidarity Lowell, 24th of 2026. Tonight, it is Sunday. We are featuring the Honest Future for Lowell. We are at UCC Dracut at 10 Arlington Street. Guidelines is we will record this and put it on YouTube. By staying in the meeting, you consent to both of this. Our timekeeper is Joe Boyle. If you want to speak, please raise your hand for the raise your hand function or type an asterisk into the chat and wait to be called on. Our stacker is Srevan and Get. Our captions are available. If you're not speaking that much, please step up. If you're speaking too much, please step back. Please assume positive intentions of all other attendees. If your words do cause hurt, someone say ouch, please. Be accountable. If you did say something that hurt someone, please say oops. If you need to talk about that more extensively, please do so after the meeting. And please speak slowly when you are speaking. Do as I say, not as I do. We are starting with our land acknowledgement and intros. At 5:40, we will do the Solidarity Lowell news and committee updates. At 5:50 p.m., allied organizations updates. If you are here to promote another group or event, please do so at that time. At 6 p.m., we'll have our featured speaker, Honest Future for Lowell. And at 6:55, we will do our wrap-up. Here in Lowell, we stand in the land of the following local nations: the Wabanaki, also known as the Dawnland Confederacy, the Pentucket, the Pawtucket, the Agawam, the Pennacook, and the Wamasett. This nation is from native-land.ca, and our full statement is at bit.ly/sl-land. What is Solidarity Lowell? It's a volunteer group of community members defending human rights, dignity, and justice in Greater Lowell. We are a chapter of Progressive Massachusetts and a Merrimack Valley Project affiliate. The Solidarity Lowell Coordinating Committee is your elected team running the meetings, organizing events, disseminating relevant news, and sharing calls to action. The SLCC elections were held last month. Congratulations to Sebastian Nash and to incumbent Joe Boyle. Yay.
Yay.
Meet the new Solidarity Lowell Coordinating Committee. Everyone on the Solidarity Lowell Coordinating Committee, congratulations as well.
Nice looking bundle.
Now we do getting to know you. Introduce yourself, your name, your pronouns, where you live, and what is your favorite dessert. My name is Ryan Hammond. My pronouns are he, him. I live in Lowell's Acre neighborhood, and my favorite dessert would be coffee toffee ice cream. And I'm going to pass the microphone on to Amy Baranowski.
Hi, Amy Baranowski. Pronouns are she, her, hers. I also live in the Acre. And, I had all week to think about this. You know what I missed that I haven't had in a very long time is Carvel ice cream cone. Yeah. That's what I'm going to go with.
Hello, everyone. Paul Gaudette, he, him pronouns. I live in the Highlands in Tyler Park area. My favorite dessert of all time and forever is apple pie. Hopefully one I've made myself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joe Boyle, he, him. I live in the Highlands here in Lowell. And my favorite dessert, I would say my favorite dessert is cherry pie. But to this question, it makes me realize that I skipped out yesterday before trying Sebastian's ice cream cake. And that seems like a tragedy, which will have affected my answer.
Hi everyone, I'm Lily Simmons. I'm gonna go with she, they pronouns. I live in Highlands, and I will say the last dessert I made, which was a bread pudding using condensed milk.
Oh,
It was pretty good.
Nice, nice.
wonderful.
I'm Ron Peastree. I live on Christian Hill here in Lowell. My pronouns are he, his, him. My favorite dessert I can't say in public. My second favorite dessert is probably anything involving dark chocolate.
Hi, my name is Harini Iyer. I go with she, her pronouns. I live in the highlands near Cambodia town, and my favorite dessert is whatever Lily makes.
That's a great.
There's a bunch of people.
She eats most of them.
So I'm Jake Forts, honest future for Lowell representative here tonight. Go with he, him, and I live in Sacred Heart, to be specific, of the South Lowell district.
Right.
Sacred Heart. And my favorite dessert would be what I'm going to be consuming later, which is cherry vanilla ice cream.
Oh, that's the best.
John Grossman, he, him. I live in Pawtucketville. My favorite dessert is all of them, which,
All the desserts.
which is why these days I'm not eating any of them.
Be careful.
Also diplomatic.
It's what
Uh,
will drive you to.
We'll move on to our virtual attendees, starting with Marissa DuPont.
Hi, everyone. Marissa DuPont, she, her, hers. I live in South Lowell in what I am calling cemetery land, but we don't really have a name for this part of the neighborhood. I am at home because I am sick. If you know me, you can probably tell. And my favorite dessert is either chocolate mousse or chocolate trifle. Either one.
Nice. Mitchell Pollan.
Hey, Mitch Paulin, he, him. I live in the Acre in Lowell. And my mom made a deal with the devil to make the world's best apple pie.
Sreban and Get. Sreban, you're muted. We can't hear you.
My name is Srevan, pronounced she, her. I live in Bike Central. My favorite dessert like mango sticky rice.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Let me see who else is here. Did we still have Sebastian?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
My name is Sebastian Nash. I go. My pronouns are he, him. I live in Centerville. My favorite dessert is tres leches.
Nice.
I don't even know what that is.
What is it?
Do
Do we have? Actually, you know what? It's from this. It's this. Miles, my bad.
I've never.
Ryan, do you want me to call on people online?
Please, if you call on people, that would be easy.
Yeah, that's fine. Mitch.
Mitch already gave us. Mitch already gave us.
Oh,
his.
Mitch went already. Sorry. Hold on. Who else? Ryan, Dooley.
Hi, can you guys see me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Ryan Dooley. I live in Chelmsford and Mill Road, which is like right across the border between this and Lowell. And my favorite dessert is either peanut butter ice cream or chocolate cake.
Nice. Chris.
Go well together.
Hi, Chris Ackerman. She, her pronouns. Live in downtown Lowell. Favorite desserts. There are so many, but I just had carrot cake this afternoon, so I'll go with that.
Ozo.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. My name's Ozo. My pronouns he, him, his. I live at the Lowell Transitional Living Center. I would say right now, especially as I'm in training, my favorite dessert, I tend to overeat a little bit, and that's okay, but I'll just go with seconds for dessert.
Nice.
You know what I mean? You just
Yes.
you get the good nutrients and instead of dessert. So right now, at least, when in a little bit we're gonna unleash. So thank you.
Danielle.
My name is Danielle. She, her. My favorite dessert is probably anything chocolate peanut butter.
Fair. Definitely agree. John.
Hello. Favorite dessert is cheesecake.
Okay. I think that's everybody online. Did I miss anyone? I don't think I did. Okay, back to you, Ryan.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Victories. The Louisiana Public Health Institute was awarded $20 million for its Gulf Hub initiative, which will ensure health centers in 4 states remain operational before, during, and after natural disasters. The Supreme Court restored full access to mifepristone, blocking a lower court's ruling that would limit availability across the country. New York Democrats launched the New York Democracy Project, designed to fight GOP gerrymandering in the state. Senate Republicans broke with Trump and left town for the month without voting on his $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund or his $1 billion ballroom security line item. Federal prosecutors in Chicago dismissed all charges against the 6 protesters arrested outside the Broadview ICE facility last fall. And studies show that littering has declined by 34% across America since 2020. Does anyone else have anything positive they'd like to share? Okay. Anyone online? No? All right.
I have one small item.
Paul, please.
This Wednesday, midday, Merrimack Valley Project and our executive director, Julio, is going to be honored in downtown Boston Financial District by Eastern Banks Awards for those nonprofits promoting citizen engagement and democracy.
Marvelous.
So we're invited to come and help celebrate Julio's award.
All right.
Well deserved.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay. We'll move on. Lowell Together. Amy, please take us away.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I thought this was further on. Okay, so just some quick Lowell Together updates. Most importantly, before I forget, we're meeting tomorrow on Zoom, 6 p.m. And so we've been working, as you all know, on the 16th, 17th, and 18th Middlesex races. In the 16th Middlesex, Lorena Betts has now been officially endorsed. She announced it. Yay all around. Yeah, you know, we love her. So in the 17th Middlesex, John Drinkwater was invited to seek our endorsement, but he chose not to for some reasons. And so a ballot should be sent out by the end of the day on whether to seek to endorse Harini Iyer or not. So if you're a member of Lowell Together, please look out for that. And then also in the 18th Middlesex, where Tara Hong is seeking our endorsement again. We reviewed his ballot recently, his questionnaire recently, and look out for a voting ballot for that by the end of the day. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm sort of looking over to Marissa quickly to make sure I didn't forget anything. No, good. Thumbs up. Okay.
Okay.
And I think
one
too.
You're on the next one?
So,
All right, let me move that
see.
over.
I tried to put mine together. Yes. Okay. So Mill City Messaging, that is our monthly postcard writing social activity because we prefer local races, but there isn't always one. We sometimes do state level, national, broader ones. So we like to do it in conjunction with Indivisible Lowell. So please join us. It's always the second Tuesday of the month. So for June, it'll be June 11th, 6 to 8 at Lala Books, our friends at Lala over at 189 Market Street. I don't know the topic yet, but hope to know that by our next newsletter. So look for that on Tuesday. If you have any questions, you want to get involved, you can contact me, Amy at solidaritylowell.com.
Okay, let me try to. All right. Next, Merrimack Valley Project. Please read us through it, Marissa.
Okay, so hi. If you're not aware, I will now put on my Merrimack Valley Project hat. I am the Operations and Administrative Coordinator for Merrimack Valley Project as of 2 months ago, I think. So right now, our current initiatives are mainly surrounding affordable housing and immigrant rights, but the two in the affordable housing umbrella are tenants' rights. So we're going to be collecting postcards that say that you endorse you support an ordinance that would notify renters of their rights when they are signing a lease and in the case of an eviction. It's really, really important because a lot of people don't know and then they get taken advantage of. And it's much harder to fight after the fact. So it's much better to just have that information at the beginning. So if you're interested in helping out with that, please contact me or Paul, or if you know anyone else at MVP, Rabbi Aaron, Julio, let us know. We're also collecting signatures for the ballot initiative for rent stabilization, AKA rent control, but this would just be the wording that they like to use is rent stabilization. I think most of you know what that is. It just would make sure that there's a cap on how high the rent can be at, I think it's 4%. So that way you can you're not getting overly charged. And then also it would include a stipulation that would make sure that renters, like the landlord couldn't evict you in order to pull someone new in and then charge them much raised rent. It would have to stay within, that 4% range. Also, we are having our leadership assembly, which we are calling Our Communities, Our Future People's Assembly. That is on June 7th from 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. It's a Sunday in Lawrence at the Lawrence Public Library. There will be food beforehand, so if you want to get there at like 3, that's probably your best bet. And yeah, if you've been to one of our delegates assemblies in the past, it's going to be similar in format to that, but we'll be talking about like I said, the affordable housing, tenants' rights, ballot, rent stabilization, and immigrant rights, but also talking about like what we want to focus on in the future. So I encourage all of you to attend. And Rabbi Aaron is starting a listening campaign, so he will be making additional meetings with different groups to talk about like what is of utmost concern and what we can make the best difference on in the future as well. But if you have any questions, just email me, marissa@solidaritylowell.com. Oh, Srayvon has her hand up.
Are the flyer able to share on the public or only the member?
Oh, it's leaders, but like if any of you want to go, I consider you all leaders. So I think that's fine.
Okay.
Yep.
In the past, we used to have formal delegates assemblies and only member organizations could have a certain number of delegates based on the size of the organization. This is an open invitation to all leaders who are interested in supporting what MVP's goals are.
Thanks, Paul.
I'd like to add on the tenants' rights campaign, with the postcard campaign, we're trying to achieve 500 postcards, and also committed folks who will show up at a city council meeting, date to be determined, and fill the chamber. So probably about 200 people. In purpose of that, there is an informal block party being planned for Sunday, June 28th in Lowell, but place to be determined. And there'll be a family-friendly event just to promote signing postcards and learning more about the campaign. So that's Sunday, June 28th, probably early afternoon. Thank you.
$4.99.
All right, anything else for Merrimack Valley Project? All right, move on then. Tabling opportunities. Tabling season has started. Solidarity Lowell will have a table at Acrefest and at Pride next month. We'll be collecting signatures for the rent stabilization ballot initiative. Can you volunteer to take a shift? Acre Festival and Resource Fair. Saturday, June 6th at 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., North Common Park, 413 Fletcher Street. Greater Lowell Pride Festival, Saturday, June 13th, 1 through 4 p.m., Lowell Heritage State Park Esplanade at the Sampus Pavilion. For questions or to volunteer for a shift, reach out to any member of SLCC or email contact@solidaritylowell.com. Also, the RISE Coalition. RISE's mission is to foster a welcoming environment for refugees and immigrants while supporting their successful integration into the Lowell community. Save the date for Welcoming Weekend on Friday, September 10th and Saturday, September 11th, with the possibility of adding Thursday night and Sunday morning to the schedule. Stay tuned. For more information, please contact Nancy Cohen at ncohen@YWCA of Lowell or Caroline Snow at ccmsnow@gmail.com.
Friday, September 11th, and Saturday, September 12th. are the correct
Oh,
dates.
typo.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, folks. Have you seen ICE in your community? If you suspect ICE, DHS, FBI, federal agents, or unidentified suspicious activity is going on in your community, or if you've witnessed or had personal contact with any of the above, call the Loose Hotline. Save the number in your phone now, 617-370-5023. The hotline operates from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day. If you're interested in volunteering for the hotline or becoming an ICE verifier, visit loosemass.org. And now our upcoming events segment. Coalition for a Better Acres Chop Diner. Dinner, sorry.
Yep.
Wednesday, May 27th from 5:30 through 7:30 p.m. at the Senior Center. Community yoga to benefit Lama. Sunday, May 31st, 11 a.m. through noon. Sutra Studio at 51 Market Street. 5th Annual Diaper Drive, hosted by Senator Vanna Howard and the Wish Project. Saturday, June 6th from 9:30 to 11 a.m. at Cawley Stadium, 424 Douglas Road. The Acre Festival and Resource Fair, Saturday, June 6th from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m., North Common Park, 413 Fletcher Street. Our Communities, Our Future, the People's Assembly, Sunday, June 7th, 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. at the Lawrence Public Library in Lawrence, Massachusetts. Pride Flag Raising, Saturday, June 13th, noon at Lowell City Hall. And the Greater Lowell Pride Festival, Saturday, June 13th, 1 through 4 p.m. at the Lowell Heritage State Park Esplanade. Does anyone else have any upcoming events that they would like to announce? I don't see any hands, so I will move on. Connect with other Lowell activists. Lowell Activists Unite is a new online community space for Greater Lowell on Discord. Discord is a free text, voice, and video application similar to Slack, a way for activists to know what's going on without relying on the whims of social media algorithms. Channels for topics of increasing concern, events, politics, pet photos, and adding channels as needed for each group and organization by request. Join as an individual or as the leader of a group or organization. Please join at discord.gg/SQQ4B3WG or email contact@solidarityLowell.com. Tripping over my own tongue. All right. Allied group updates and announcements. Please share any important information and upcoming events from other groups that you are involved in. Take it away, attendees.
Memrac Valley Project has been interviewing candidates for a third organizer position, the first in our history to be able to afford that because of grant writing and fundraising over the past 18 months. We're able to put another full-time organizer on the beat.
Grant and fundraising all by Julio. We should also remind you.
Decision hasn't been made yet, but.
John? On Tuesday, before the city council meeting, there's a subcommittee meeting, which is the result of some advocacy that 350 Mass has been doing regarding the gas companies' tendency to replace all the gas pipes they can, which is really the reason why gas prices and electricity prices are up. A lot of the electricity is created by burning gas. And we want to focus on that because it's really a mistake for Massachusetts to cut energy efficiency programs as they're trying to do to help people with their energy bills. It's much better to cut gas company profits by limiting the number of taking steps to reduce the number of gas pipes they replace unless they really need to be replaced. Most of the time they could be repaired, but they make money off each pipe they replace, and that's a structural incentive problem. Having raised the issue several times at City Council, they're conducting a subcommittee meeting about it on Tuesday at 5:30. National Grid is going to come and explain themselves, and I would encourage anybody interested in the issue to attend. Also, I have one more thing. The state is in the process of putting together legislation, energy legislation, and a coalition that 350 Mass is part of called Mass Power Forward is holding a march on June 10th in Boston, also one in Springfield and one in Pittsfield, to call attention to what needs to be done so that we can have both clean and affordable energy. And it's not easy to go to Boston during the daytime and attend a march, but if you're in a position to do that, I encourage you to do it.
Any other attendees have upcoming announcements from groups that you're involved in?
The Galila Greater Lowell Interfaith Leadership Alliance has sent letters both to the Islamic Society of Greater Lowell and to the Peace Islands Institute in Boston, expressing solidarity as an interfaith organization for the recent events in San Diego and the shooting. And we're working on maybe a public statement coming further along.
Mitchell?
I'll be mentioning it again next month, but the next regular event of the Lowell Democratic City Committee is a picnic at Shed Park at 5 p.m. on Sunday, August 2nd.
All right. Thank you very much. Any other virtual attendees have announcements?
The Disability Commission is going to be off for the next 2 months. So it is a good time to get stuff in if people want to propose stuff for the agenda.
Any other announcements? Ozo.
Not an announcement, just a question for John. Which subcommittee was that? The rules subcommittee?
Technology and utilities.
All right. From John to everyone, can somebody please? Any other announcements from our virtual attendees? All right, we'll move on. Honest Future for Lowell. This is a grassroots coalition of residents and advocates committed to environmental justice, energy accountability, and community dignity. Their goal is to hold decision makers accountable to build a Lowell where every voice matters and every breath is safe. Please type your questions in the chat or use raised hand function, and they will be answered following the presentation. Please take it away.
Ryan, you might want to stop sharing.
Okay. Stop sharing from here.
Use it closer to them.
That's fine. I'm good. I'm like, I can see myself on there, so I'll just sit a little forward.
No, you need to stop sharing from here.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, my bad.
Yeah, because he wanted to show that video. Jake, do you want me to show the video now or just tell me when?
Yeah, you can show it now. It would be the easiest.
1 second.
So to best understand, just to give the context to this, the best understand the situation if you've never been to the Sacred Heart neighborhood or back central, because it's sandwiched right in between. It's on the northern fringe of Sacred Heart, and the brook basically separates it from back central. Both areas are impacted, and Markley's expansion is planned to go towards the back central area. And to understand this, you can see once this video begins that it is basically smack dab in the middle of a residential neighborhood. There is industrial to the north, where you're seeing the industrial complex to the north, which is right there. That is where Markley is proposing to expand to and purchase. And so that's why Back Central is now at the forefront of Markley's expansion. Here you see in this image here, there are now currently 19 diesel engines. Two more of the pads have been filled in since this video was taken. And as you see over to the right is Olivera Park. That is a baseball diamond that is open to the public, the kids in Sacred Heart and Back Central to utilize. Literally a stone's throw from all of those diesel engines, and as Markley looms large over it. As you can see, Back Central, they're doing new building right there, new construction that they're putting up to add even more houses to a congested area. But see how densely packed it is as it's swinging around? There's a school that just went off to the right-hand side, and that's at their southwest corner. And all of this you see here is just the north side diesel engine yard. As it continues to go around, this was all installed, by the way, for one client who took the second floor of that big black building, which everybody pretends doesn't exist, but looms large over at the Sacred Heart neighborhood, which is what you now see in the view off in the distance. All of that is the densely packed Sacred Heart neighborhood. This lower buildings that you see here that he's now approaching, those were the first two to come online. I live in the blue house that is coming into view directly back from it in the center part of the frame. It's now going off to the left. But as you see, there are 4 more diesel engines. Anything that looks like a kind of like a railroad boxcar is a diesel engine. And now you can see the railroad that supported Prince Macaroni and how it used to come into Prince Macaroni. But those are the 4 diesel engines. The first 2 went in on the site in 2016 permanently. And that's how I got involved, because they were never supposed to be there. And so the story of Markley, when I started, I'm just showing you what's here. So all of this is housing, but apartment housing. So it's all multifamily homes and actual apartment units. So all of this is densely packed. Those are single family homes on Otis Street and Bourne Street. And as he pivots around, you can see that basically the homes are the ones taking the brunt of all of the noise. You see his parking lot? Where is all of the noise-making equipment? It's up against the homes and the residences. Nowhere in the parking lot can you see any of this noise-making equipment. You might see one diesel engine, but he's actually used the trees to kind of hide it from his clients. So all of this is packed in. And as you continue around to the east inside of the property, you see that there are 2 water towers that were put into this lady's backyard, who's also a member of Honest Future for Lowell. And then as he loops around, you only see a few coolant towers. They've actually gone from being, in here we have 6 of them. There are now 16 of those towers on the eastern side of the property. You see them spinning there? There are now 16 of them. They go all the way down to the back of the property. So this gives you a general overview of what I'm talking about, you can't do any better than what this video is. It is old. This is from June of last year. They were still continuing to expand. They now have more diesel engines on site than what this shows, and also more coolant towers. They run the whole length of the eastern side of the building.
Are those their ACs?
Those are AC
Compressors?
condensers.
Compressors.
Those are AC condensers, which are support the lower buildings. The lower buildings were built first. They started going into the big building in about 2018, 2019 with clients. The second floor client, which is also moving into downtown Lowell, Draper Labs, they are the ones that caused the massive expansion of diesel engines as well as coolant towers because it's artificial intelligence. It's the entire tenant of the second floor of that big building. There's no other tenant in there. So to start from the beginning, what is the Markley Group? That's basically Honest Future for Lowell is basically formed to hold this company accountable, and the city of Lowell and our state leaders, as well as the state's DEP, accountable for this mess that they caused. So if you start from the beginning, it starts with choices. Prince Macaroni was there. They were a great neighbor. It was a choice for Markley to choose this facility. It was in foreclosure. And if you notice, there's a pattern with this company. They're always looking for cheap real estate. And once we get towards the end of the story, just being cognizant of the time, it's all about choices and choosing to do business in a certain way. So Markley chose to come into the Sacred Heart neighborhood in 2015. Markley chose at the time to mislead the neighborhood. And I can say that clearly because I have proof. What is now known as Markley Way was actually part of the original plan when Markley came. However, there was a very well-appointed local attorney that they hired to ramrod this through. And he gave them suggestions on how to make it more palatable to a neighborhood who had no clue in 2015 what a data center was. So when I say that with passion, there's a reason. And there goes this thing too. But anyways, but with passion, because we're the OG. Now everybody's talking about data centers.
What's OG?
The original generation.
Okay.
We're the, sorry, I'm like I sometimes use slang. So no worries. So we are the original ones in this area. Yes, they were in Boston before that, but nobody knew because it was in downtown Boston. If you don't know, their corporate headquarters is at 1 Summer Street in Boston, which is directly above Macy's. When it was Jordan Marsh, now I'm dating myself, the Enchanted Village was where they now are. See, I'm like, if you have the relation, you know what I'm talking about. That was all open space after Jordan Marsh went bankrupt and Jordan's bought it, the Enchanted Village, and moved it. That was all open space. Now it's all data center. So Markley came in and started there, but they outgrew that facility and they needed to expand. So they were looking at different places and came across Lowell, who had this building that was in foreclosure that had no windows, i.e. the black one that you saw that's now painted black. That was a great facility for them. They're like, we can totally use this building because our servers don't want to see sunlight and they don't want to see anything that, you know, resembles like dust or anything. So they really had to clean that building out of all the flour that was in there. So they came to Lowell with an incentivization from the city council, who's like, yes, we finally have a purpose for this property. So here is a 20-year tax break.
That's why I asked this question.
And so that's how they lured them to Lowell. But there was also politics at the state level because the first anchor tenant to move in happened to be a state agency, which was Massport Logan Airport's backup. Since then, there have been more state agencies that have moved into this facility in the middle of a densely packed residential neighborhood where you have to question what state authorities thought that this was a good idea to do. The first 2 diesel engines that went in were directly to an angle directly behind my house. The 4 that you saw that were towards the end are the original 4 before they started building the Northside Equipment Yard. So when I say it's about choices, Markley chose Lowell. I am a 3rd generation person in the Sacred Heart neighborhood. The other people that are part of my group, including the one who has the water tanks in her backyard, she's also, I believe, the second or third generation for that house. That house. I'm second generation for the house that I'm in, and my family was one block over. We are all have lived here. We call that home. We invited Markley into our home because they said it was not going to be an impact to the neighborhood. And this is what they said at the planning board meeting in 2015. My parents turned up and heard what was said. Somebody at that time on the planning board raised a concern saying, you're planning on putting 30 diesel engines, even though they're emergency usage, into a densely packed residential neighborhood. They said, oh, it'll be very rarely used. And that was the story that's behind it.
That's me. Yes, that was me. I was on the planning board at the time, Joseph Boyle. And they didn't at that time say 30. They said 2. Everything past that was the expansions. They got additional permits and additional.
The hair is throwing me off, but yes. Sorry, no offense, but I'm like, now I'm seeing it because your clip is one that we have memorialized because you spoke up and said, this doesn't make sense. So you were the canary in the coal mine for those of us who didn't know what we were getting into. And so thank you, because when you look back at that historically, but they also promised something else in that video. And this is where I say about promises and what Markley chooses to do, because it's their choice to continue this process. It is always their choice. This is our home. Markley continues to choose to make a situation worse. And it's not due to the neighbors' efforts to try and make it better. So in that particular meeting, in 10 years, Markley said that fuel cell technology would be where it's at to come in and help fuel their expansion. So what did they do 10 years later? They literally went from 7 diesel engines on site to now 23. Not even saying the fuel cell technology that they brought up in relation to the statement that you made about how many diesel engines they were putting in the neighborhood. They said that 10 years ago, that in 10 years' time, this would be something they could do. Did they do it? No. And they could have, but they didn't want to do it on their property the way it would have been configured. They said it couldn't fit. Only the best available control technology, which I hear from their vendor, which is VHB, all the time, and it's the dirty diesel guy. Everything is diesel because it's the best thing that's been proven for them. And that's how we ended up here today.
And if they're telling you that fuel cell technology was mature enough to be able to do this, even now in 2026, no, it's not. It can't replace 30 diesel engines, not even close.
Well, so that's what I'm like, they had said that 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like, so other solutions aren't being explored.
They lied through their you-know-whats.
Well, and that's actually part of the choices that Markley made. So when they came to town, they chose to mislead the neighborhood about the sale of Markley Way. They also chose to mislead the neighborhood about where they planned on putting in their first 4 diesel engines. They were never supposed to be on the south side of the property. All noise-making equipment was supposed to be on the north side because you saw that nice open parking lot and you saw the mills. So those were industrial. So that made sense to put it over there. If you were going to do anything, it wasn't going to be 84 feet from my backyard. And that is the closest diesel engine.
So there's all these diesel engines that there's a schoolyard and a playground and a baseball and all sorts of, and at the planning board meeting, I mentioned the fact that if there were plants dying downstream from all those engines, that the soil needed to be tested to find out whether or not we had a potential risk to the kids and the public downstream, so to speak, water table downstream. Has that testing been okayed, started, done, anything?
No. So we have an unmitigated dirt pile, which you actually saw as part of the video where it began. That has been moved all over their site throughout the years since the original excavation started.
No dust control.
But it is, well, that's been the ongoing tiff with them, not tax incentive, but yes, it is now currently encrusted. But you have to get them to do so because it will blow off in the wind. and then become uncovered. They're basically hoping, I think, that dirt pile blows into the community, and that's how it's going to disperse, as opposed to them dealing with whatever's in it. Because if something wasn't in that, they would have used it to make their nice, beautiful parking lot that all of their tenants see when they come in. But instead, they trucked in topsoil, which told me that dirt pile was contaminated. Now, nobody's ever been able to test it, but they took soil samples. But if you ask them to share it, they won't. There's no transparency.
That's a dead giveaway.
That's a dead giveaway. Yes, it totally is.
How many of those diesel engines are running and how often now?
So when you can catch them, they are running the engines so they do a spring and a fall test. They run them for up to 8 hours each. Some engines are run less than that, depending upon how close they are in proximity to residences. So engines 3 and 4 directly behind me are usually run for 4 hours and 2 hours burns. The further one away, 1 and 2, are usually burned for 8 hours, 7 to 8 hours. And the north side ones I can't speak to because that's the other side. But each one is individually tested for 5 minutes per week. Most of that is done during the weekdays.
So they're being tested. They're not being used regularly.
They're backup generators.
They're backup generators.
No, I just want to make sure they're only being used for backups and not.
Well,
actually
that's a little interesting because recently we've detected that one of the engines was running for a little bit more than it was.
That's a lot of backup generators.
You've got a question.
Wait, hold on. I think we should let him finish his presentation and then do questions, because right now it's getting a little. Yeah, I want him to finish what he was planning on saying.
So basically, it's just a quick timeline of all of it. So 2016, we have the street sale of Markley Way. Basically, the same problems that we have with their current employees coming out of Markley Way is what they use as an excuse to buy it from the city for $32,000, an entire street, which the city of Lowell created for Prince Macaroni and took 2 houses by eminent domain to make. So housing gone to make that roadway that Markley then buys for pennies on the dollar. $32,000. It was somewhere in the 30,000 range. I'm not entirely, but it was meant that they would spend more money to improve the look of it, not to the benefit of the neighborhood, because who goes down Markley Way? Only their tenants. We don't see that. And so from there, we found out in 2016, I did a public records request, and that's when I found out that their attorney knew when Markley came to Lowell that they planned on taking that street. Our neighborhood uses that as a cut through because the corner of Gorham and Moore Street routinely floods, and it still does in catastrophic rainstorms. So we were all bent out of shape, and this was also creating a problem for the fire department to get through from Gorham Street to get into the neighborhood, because they literally made Carter Street and Prince Ave a dead end, and they could loop through and get up to the upper part of Moore Street Hill. We're like, what the heck? They're like, oh, no, it's people are driving through here and use it as a cut through. They drive like homicidal maniacs, but yet Markley's employees and tenants do the same thing when they whip out of there. And now it's on top of Moore Street and they think they own the place. They even stopped a funeral one time to have one of their pieces of equipment make a swing out. They literally cut off the middle of Tewksbury Funeral Home's funeral procession, which is illegal, but that's how great of a neighbor they are. But getting back on track, so that's 2016. So 2 diesel engines pop up behind my house, and they're going for fuel permits before the city council. And I'm like, and then taking Markley Way. And I'm saying, what? You had to have known. So I do a public records request, and sure enough, they did know. And so when I asked for the public records about the street sale, within it, they gave me the blueprints of the street. And then suddenly, there were 4 little slots behind my house, which at the time I wasn't fully versed in planning board regulations, but that was a major site plan modification that was done. And the city knew that they were putting the 4 engines there, but never went back before the planning board to say, hey, you need to do this. Markley chose to just move them without following proper protocol. So henceforth, the first guy in the thing who is mad becomes me in the neighborhood. Then you go along where they continue the expansion of the 2 little buildings. They finish the construction of that. Then they start into the big building and they're like, whoops, we didn't realize that the big building, actually, there's not enough water pressure for this thing. We need some water towers. Where can we stick them where our clients can't see them? I'm like, Homework? Can anybody please do your homework before you buy a facility and not know that you need these things? So then we have our next person who's pissed off and part of our residents group. That would be Eileen, who has the 2 water towers in her backyard because they start construction without going to who first? The planning board. They started digging, and it's COVID. Everybody's home. What you doing coming to the edge of my driveway? 3 feet from the edge of her driveway is where they dug to. And they said, don't go on this part of your driveway. You might fall in. Wait until we put the retaining wall up. Nice neighbor. Henceforth, you have the next resident. Across the street from her is another lady who's part of our residents group, and she uses the pool that you saw that was in that video where the water towers are. She no longer uses the pool because she's concerned about the water towers that they installed and the lack of transparency from the Markley group because there's mist that comes off them all the time. And they've recently tried to fix it now that we literally have videos of it looking like there's a vapor cloud coming off of them. They've recently tried to do something with the chemicals, but the chemicals that they're putting into them have now actually discolored the paint on that side of the building. So I'm like, what are we now breathing? So I'm like, the trust and transparency is gone. This company had the ability through the years. We have met with them so many times, and you're probably saying, how did it come to litigation? Because the company does whatever they want and has taken advantage of the Sacred Heart neighborhood as if we're just a bunch of pushovers. They have literally continued to expand, and with that expansion have pissed off more people in the surrounding neighborhood. But what do? They open their checkbooks to people in like city places. They have their name at the UMass Lowell Arena under the ice so that everybody who watches the Boston Fleet play sees that Markley's doing something great because they're sponsoring this. The story is getting out now that what they're actually doing to the community that they're in is pretty crappy. And so what happened from there, that was 2020. Then you go in, there was a year break because their construction manager took off. He'd had enough of us, I think. I don't know why, but he ended up going somewhere down south and building a data center down there. I think it was in Virginia, if I heard correctly. But anyways, they were without a construction manager. That is the 1 year in all of the time period that Markley has been here where we had a quiet summer without construction. Data centers are going up like this, 2 to 3 years max, and they are online. This guy has got the endless construction project of the century. So on top of all that, every summer when you have your windows open, you've got jackhammers, you've got construction equipment running around. And when he put in those diesel engines on the north side, that's when he pissed off all the people in the back central neighborhood, and we had more residents coming into our group. We weren't even formed then. It was just more voices were speaking up about this, saying, what are you doing? You're literally jackhammering 24/7. And if they complained about it, Markley was so kind to send them earmuffs and some flowers. I'm not joking. What kind of a neighbor is that? Then when enough people complained, he's like, well, we'll do something else so that it's not as invasive, but we still need to drill down because we need to put these engines on something that's like solid, like pile driving, if you will, but only in land. I don't get that part of it. But anyways, that's what he was doing. And it was the drill when it left the property that they cut off the funeral procession to get out. That, I'm like, I will never forget that. I'm like, you have no, never mind. Anyways, so that brings us up to the expansion. But the fun part is that the DEP, so the city had wiped their hands of it. There is a guy, and I don't mind name throwing because I'm an individual person, and I can tell you this, Dave Fuller. He is the city inspector. He's supposed to be looking out for the interest of everybody. The city to make sure that this company is doing what they're supposed to do, and the residents of the neighborhood. Over time, it just became, if you said something to Dave Fuller, it was immediately forwarded to Markley Group, not even being redacted, so they knew exactly who was complaining and could target you. Nice. So the city's complicit in doing that. And he recently just did it to another member of our group. Just recently, like in the last week, they're not getting the picture that this company is up to no good. And he trusts everything that this company tells him. He doesn't investigate for it. That's problematic.
Yeah, that's his job.
So yeah, that is his job. I'm like, in 2019, that's when I went to the state and said, the city isn't doing anything. They're saying there's no problem here. My house, every time these engines goes off, is filling up with diesel fumes. So if you notice, the smokestacks on my side were a little bit higher because we played a game of let's raise the smokestacks because that's going to fix the problem. But then we got to the point where you couldn't raise them any higher. So the smokestacks come even with the second story of my house. Diesel fumes shoot up, they cool, and then they settle. They get over their side of the property by the time they cool. So then they just land on the residences that are around them. So now the second story of my home, as opposed to the first floor, fills up in the summer depending upon wind direction and when they're testing them, which, by the way, the endless promises of testing. They know they're going to fire these engines. They have said at every planning board meeting, Conservation Commission, and city council meetings when they're looking for approvals. We will tell you when we're doing this because it is planned maintenance. How many times do you think the Markley Group has told me? Once. And how many times are they done for long burn maintenances? Twice a year, 8 hours. The two engines that are on my side that are 1 and 2, sorry, they're all numbered, and the fact that I need to know that is just boggles my mind. But 1 and 2 are fired the longest. They're done like 7 to 8 hours. Then 3 and 4, which are like directly behind me, they're fired for shorter time spans. The other ones on the other side, I can't attest to how long they are. I can just attest to when I see them firing in person with them. But when you're looking at that, I went to the DEP and I said, this is a problem. So the solution was to raise the smokestacks, but then they couldn't raise them any higher because the engines couldn't support it. So a company who's getting a $77 million tax break and is clearly flush with money because at the same time all of this is going on, they're buying up residences in the neighborhood with Shell LLCs.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So Prince Avenue is under multiple LLCs that are owned by Markley. Maxwell Properties was the first entity to pop up. It bought 3 Prince Ave, and the guy who lived there actually worked for their landscape architecture company called Stantec. You might have remembered them.
Stantec.
Yeah, so Stantec was the landscape architect for, and still is. And so the guy who lived there had a boat in his backyard because Markley reclaimed property that was actually in public purview, or as we call adverse possession in lawyer speak. Why I need to know that, thank you, Markley. But reclaimed part of Prince Avenue, and because he pinched it, that guy couldn't get the boat out of his backyard and swing it anymore. So he bought him out. And of course, he worked for Stantec, so that was a good thing to do. That was being a good neighbor to somebody who he impacted. Then he started buying on my street. So 1 and 2 Iowa Street, he pinched the property, took the property back to where the actual property lines were, but he had no business doing so because the other people who owned it had the right to that and had it for decades. So they had a clear right to the ownership. So he starts pushing the property lines closer to the residences. And so those folks are like, what are you doing? In the process, he collapses our sewer pipe, putting his fence in because the sewer pipe goes through all private property. So that was his first time doing it. Then when he was doing other renovations, our water main goes through where their access road is. He punctured that and it was like a geyser shooting up in the air.
We're talking about the landscaping company for Markley?
The construction company, yeah.
Okay, they should know better.
I don't, right? You'd think. But so recently, and the funny part is when they put the retaining wall in the north side, they did it again and punctured the water main going through that side of the property. And I'm like, you got to be kidding
Sounds
me.
like they're doing it on purpose.
Well, now they have water
Keystone
infrastructure
Cops,
because of it. They have more infrastructure to
Once
duplicate
is
go
a
around.
mistake, your company. Twice, you did it on purpose.
None of this is normal. This is not how it works with other industrial users and other industrial sites in Lowell. That's not how the city reacts to them. Everybody else with their construction, they're super duper careful lest they run afoul of the zoning authorities and have to move something that they built later. They don't act the way everybody else acts, and it worries me. What do they know?
Let's let Jake finish before we get to questions.
So there's the last part of that. So So they came in with the AI person. So once they did with that, the second water tower went up, and also at that time period, so did the mass expansion. It literally happened like overnight. Cooling towers, we went from like 2 to 16. The 16 are now supporting, the last 4 are supporting, I think, the third floor, but the ones up to 12 were to help that company. Then on the backside, they had the DEP plan approval. So they had 3 plan approvals within a span of 3 years. 2 of them were within a span of 1 year. Why? Because 2 things happened. They got approved to put in 19 diesel engines. How many do you think Markley installed?
You said 23, so.
21. And then, which is the part that led to where we're getting to now. We're getting there. Sorry, I know it's running a little bit over. But how we got to where we are now is because they installed 21. Not only could I count and call them out on that, I'm like, you're supposed to have 19. How do you have 21? There was also a sound barrier that he was supposed to erect all along the eastern side of the property. However, he had made an agreement with somebody who lives at the corner of his property in the back, Selena, who lives on the corner of Bourne Street, right at the corner of where those cooling towers are and where the diesel engine yard is. She didn't want her sunset view blocked. So when he put up the privacy fence, which is also a sound barrier, privacy barrier, when he put that up, he, behind her house, she has chain link fence so she can see the sunset. That's what she wanted. Well, when the DEP came out with their decision and I got a copy of the public comments, who was the one who was complaining about her view? Not about any of the pollution coming from this or any problems with the noise. It was just about her view, and she didn't want the wall there. It was Miss Selena. So for 2 reasons, Markley then goes back to the planning board and immediately files another plan approval to take the site from 19 engines to 27. But there's already 21 on site. And when I called them out, they're like, no, you're seeing 19. I'm like, buddy, that's when a wall got put up. They built this huge retaining wall so you couldn't get the view of all the diesel engines in their actual thing. And that's where the dirt mound got located, because the dirt mound sits higher. So you can't see all of the engines at once. You can only see one line from this perspective and one line from this one. But if you count them in aggregate, you know that there's more engines on the site than there's supposed to be.
The drones see all.
They do. And that's the footage that has been aired.
Stupid.
Everybody can see now with the drones, and that's why they don't like having drones flown over their property. They're very intimidating when a drone is flown over their property. How I know? Because when Boston 25 News did their news story, they had flown a drone, and the chief of security saw the drone and had Lowell PD come to my house to have an explanation as to who the film crew was and why they were using a drone over their property. This is what I'm like, if the Lowell PD is on speed dial to this company, but it gets better. So the third plan approval gets done on the 4th of July weekend. They're like, here you go on the 3rd of July. So not only is the state DEP being nefarious, they're doing it around all holidays. So we come back as a residents group, we form, all of us are pissed at this point, like what the hell's going on? So we form a residents group. Honest Future for Lowell is born. All of us are fragmented and we come together. We're like, enough is enough. We need to come together. So we form our organization, and then we start out and we're like, we're going to appeal this. Little did we know behind the scenes that there's talks being held at the highest levels of the state. That would be Maura Healy, and it would be tied directly to her office with the former Deputy Director, Chief of Staff, which is Deputy Director of Special Projects. Her name is Kate Kelly. She's now currently involved with her reelection campaign. She was instrumentally involved in having conversations with this commissioner of the DEP, and an administrative consent order suddenly popped up in September, where Markley could continue as if the approval was in place and keep on adding engines and adding coolant towers to the facility. No one told us. This was done as a backdoor deal between Mass DEP and Markley. Shady beyond belief. And the people at the Mass DEP and Markley all had our contact information to tell us that they were entering into this agreement. Did anybody from the Mass DEP or Markley reach out? No, they didn't. That was when we found that out, was when they, in January, February, they were bringing in more coolant towers. And we're like, you're not supposed to be doing this because we're appealing the decision of the DEP. You're not supposed to do this. They reply back and go, oh, look at this. Their lovely Boston attorney sends that to us and says, hey, look at this. We can do whatever we want. What? Like, how is the Department of Environmental Protection there to protect the people? How does that happen? But then the last part that I'm going to close out with is the surveillance state. Come to my area of Lowell, you are on camera. Come to my house, you will be identified. I cannot go off my street. There is a camera pointed at Iowa Street, the street I live on. Come and look at the corner of Prince Ave in Iowa. You will see cameras pointed at public streets. How is that allowed? There is surveillance all over my area of the city. You come into my section of the city, you have plate readers looking at you from every direction. The flock plate readers, I've had an instance where that has been abused by them against me. It's insane, the level of surveillance that you see. And if you come and actually look, walk the perimeter of the property, which they will hate, but you will be on so many cameras that they will figure out who you are. That is how creepy this company is. And if you need to have that level of security, which, by the way, went on steroids in October of last year, that's when they started installing all of the security cameras at their periphery, looking out onto things. Because before, they were only looking at the dollar store, which is on the corner of Newell and Gorham Street. They had a camera pointed at that intersection, and that had been there for a while. But they went crazy with cameras on the south side in October of last year. And that apparently was because somehow or other, somebody, although they like to point a finger at me repeatedly, but somebody in there lost a drone over their property, and they found it. And what did that chief of security do? That guy. And then I had more law enforcement showing up to my house. I'm like, they have enough cameras already pointed at my property to know I don't own a drone. But that's the level of harassment that this company has stooped to, and that the city of Lowell has been complicit in allowing to happen. Because not only are the cameras on their property, they're also on the top of the Cardinal O'Connell School, which Devon Cutchins, the vice president of the company, is on the steering committee of. It's also on top of the Lowell Firehouse on Gorham Street as another one of their cameras. And there's also a camera on the top of Mario's Discount Furniture. All of that is to surveil the neighborhood and all roads going to this facility. The flock plate readers catch you as you come in. And then if you get around the facility, you're on a camera. And cameras are everywhere, but not these types of cameras. The ones that are along their property line are invasive. They can see the eastern side of my property. They can see my entire backyard. From another angle, they see my driveway. I live in a fishbowl. Markley wants it to be that way because they want to see everything that I'm doing. And how do I say that and how do I know that is because recently they were firing the engines on the north side, including possibly the 2 new ones that they installed earlier this year. If I come out, I can see the Milton Cat guy, who is the one who does their generator maintenance. He's on site, which means something is being fired. But they can see me come off the street, and by the time I get around to the northern side of the facility, they turn the engine off because they know when I leave my street, there's a camera pointed at my street. How is any of this surveillance allowed? Surveillance plus AI. It's in their facility. Draper Labs is a military industrial complex that they moved into a residential neighborhood. They will tell you publicly, and when they do comments in the Boston Globe just ran an article where they actually did respond. They're like, oh, it's Netflix. That was the same story that they gave you back in the day. When they came to town, they said this company was going to be Netflix. If there's Netflix in there, it might be 1 or 2 telecoms companies, but you don't move in an entire industrial military complex, AI, into the second floor of the facility, then suddenly put up so many cameras that we can't scratch our nose or pick our nose or scratch our butt without you seeing, even into our own homes. The cameras look into our homes and can see into our homes. Do we have a right to be pissed? Oh, yeah. look at the laundry list of things I just mentioned. And that's how we're at where we're at today.
Tell about the lawsuit.
Let's do
what's
the
going on.
questions online first.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
online questions
We had a
first.
whole ton here, so.
Ozo first, I believe, if Ozo's still with us.
Thanks, Ryan. So aside from the surveillance, water, aesthetics, noise, blatant corruption, I mean, this is okay. Actually, let me just grab this real quick. I'm sorry for not being prepared. But okay, according to your complaint, the Sacred Heart and Back Central neighborhoods are overburdened by air pollution and other environmental stressors. The census block group that houses the data center ranks in the 97th percentile in the country for nitric oxide emissions and in the 90th percentile nationwide for proportion of adults with asthma, according to the EPA's former and whatever. So how do we hold them accountable for like actual health, not risks, but they've like killed people already, I'm sure of it. They're creating health effects now. How do we hold them accountable for the destruction of human life that they've undertaken here, instead of saying the risks? It's not just risks. You mentioned the diesel fumes that that's settling in your lungs as well. So how about the blatant, all this stuff that you just mentioned paired with the actual damage that they've done to humans? How do we hold them accountable for that? Thank you.
So my answer to that would be sell them a recently decommissioned peaker plant for $2.5 million and watch it probably come back online. So to make a bad situation worse, they bought the La Energia facility that you can see from the highway. Yeah, on Tanner Street, and for $2.5 million. And I'm getting more, like as time goes on, I'm getting more intel about that, where it may be coming back online as a gas-fired power plant for the facility. So as if there's not enough emissions, now there's
It's
that.
also going to impact the energy costs. We already pay a lot. And if there is what John talked about, that is going to cause another issue. The question that I have is, how is the city holding Markley accountable? I know the answer to this, but I want everybody to hear this as well. What has the city done so far to hold Markley accountable, if they have done anything at all?
So the planning board has put in certain bare conditions with it that Markley has never met. And so for us, we had kids running behind our house, and the diesel engines are 84 feet. So even though they say there's double walled tanks that these things sit on, seeing kids running amok behind your house, which they were in 2020 and 2021, they got into the property, and it's supposed to be secure, right? Unlike that's what they build themselves as. And so the thing came about just about the back fence. Can you at least put in a back fence that doesn't have this huge gap in it where kids can get through? And it was a running joke because we would go before the planning board every single time. What happened with the back gate? What's going on with the back gate? Now you go back there again, and where's the back gate? It's gone again. It's this little dinky construction fence. Where's the security? So then they finally go and stick a security guard there for a week. And that was because they were either testing engines or they were doing more construction that they didn't want to be seen, because now there's conveniently a rock pile that's in a way that's also blocking some areas where they were constructing. Unlike, where is it? But
Mitchell has a question.
Mitchell?
Was next.
Because I know you're running short on time.
Yeah, I was just going to comment that like the issue with them hitting water pipes is very unusual. I mean, I work in construction, and I've worked on, similar, not facilities that large, but like I worked on the Comcast data center on Meadowcroft Street. And
you know that they bought the property across the street, right?
What is that?
You know they bought the property across the street, right?
What, from the Comcast facility?
Yeah, so the old Prince Packaging, Americraft Carton, they own that too. They bought that for $5 million.
And I work in commercial construction right now, and if incidents like that are just extremely uncommon. So it's just kind of shocking to hear, about stuff like that coming up. And the other question I had. So you said that they bought the Tanner Street power plant?
Yes. And
Okay, yeah, because that used to be associated with Maycom. I remember they provided power and steam for Maycom originally, but
and they
at
also
one point.
provided steam to for the other steam component that went underneath the railroad tracks to Prince Macaroni.
Yep. So so they bought that facility?
Yep.
Okay, that's interesting. All right. Thank you.
Aurora?
I'm just curious. You said something about Dutton Street. Now I live in that area. Are they buying up like housing developments to build this stuff in my neighborhood? Do I have to worry about my housing place being bought out from underneath my program?
She's in the acre.
So Dutton Street, so Wexford Management, I don't know where they're going, but that's in the Hamilton Canal Industrial District. I don't know what specifically they're going on, but that's Draper Labs is also moving in for that. So if you think my section of the city is crazy with security, wait until that moves into downtown. Don't worry. If you're in downtown, I'm like, you don't want this military industrial complex. It's bad enough over my area. But now it wasn't Dutton Street, so I'm not sure where that came from. It's right now where they have bought in streets that are impacted by Markley and their expansions is Newall Street, Prince Ave, Iowa Street, Otis Street, Bourne Street, Meadowcroft Street, Bolt Street, and then over on Tanner Street. So it's like, it's basically all of Sacred Heart. And if you look at District 5, which is Kim Scott's district, it's all in her district. All of it.
Ron?
And now what can we do to fight back?
Turn up at every meeting. And so that's basically what we're doing is like, the community organizing part of it. And that's why I'm here tonight is say like, if we see something and we post it out, if you could turn up and just be like, this isn't right for not only that neighborhood, but now it's not right for the city because now with how much they've put onto the facility. So if we lose power, then once they get them all online, one house gen always runs, but then half of those will run. So 26 cut in half would be 13 engines running at full power. If one of them fails, then the other one turns on because they're redundancy, but they all need to be tested. And so turn up because there's a 1 mile radius. You stick that at the center of Markley and you draw it around in a circle. That hits back central, South Lowell, that hits the lower Belvedere, that hits all of downtown Lowell and the lower Highlands.
Yep.
That's how much of an impact this facility will have if the power goes out. And I know you're saying, well, if the power goes out, how often does that happen?
It goes out pretty regularly.
And so since Markley has come to Lowell, it happens quite regularly to different substations that Markley draws from. They weren't prepared. When I say they, it's National Grid. You as ratepayers are paying for the expansion of it. There were 3 different projects under the Markley name, and they called it the Markley Project to bolster power lines coming into Lowell because when they first went online, we were popping transformers like they were candy and constantly plunged into darkness, which means those first 2 engines that were by me were constantly being turned on because they needed to power the facility. It's a 24/7 operation. They finally started bringing in more electricity into the facility, but then we still have problems with it. And that's the problem because you never know when you're going to lose power. Somebody snagged the power lines going over the Lowell connector. Remember they closed the Lowell connector down a little while ago? When they did that, the engine behind my house was on until long after the power was restored from that because it was one of the feeder lines that it took out. Now they have redundancy of that feeder line because of that incident. But now what does our neighborhood look like? A bunch of high voltage power lines. Come out and look from Quebec Street to Lundberg Street to Bolt Street, you'll see nothing but high voltage lines. Look at all of Gorham Street to Carter Street, high voltage lines again. But when you go into their facility, do you see any of this? No, because
I had one last question I actually wanted to ask you. It was now the radius of pollution from these chemicals in these data centers. What's the radius? Is that something you would already know, or is it being looked into, like how far it spreads throughout the entirety of this metropolitan area?
It's 1 mile, so it's like kind of like a epicenter, if you will, and then it like goes out and rings. But it's a 1 mile circumference of the actual data center. is where the impacts are. If you're closer to it, of course, the impacts are more severe, but it's felt all the way out to the 1 mile area before the dispersion really like goes correctly.
Depends on wind and other.
Yeah, and
things, so,
wind
yeah.
factors too, and other things. Good point to bring up, and humidity. Ron?
Couple of things. First off, Mitchell and Joe both mentioned this is not how things are normally done. And this is extremely exceptional. I've seen this before. We'll come back to that. The second thing is you have to understand who Draper Labs is. 80% of all of the navigation software used in absolutely everything the U.S. military makes, whether it's an airplane, a submarine, an ICBM, etc., is made by Draper Labs.
That's why we call it military.
The 000 of their three-dimensional coordinate system is the chairman of the board's office inside of Draper Labs in Cambridge, right? They brag about that to make sure everybody. Now, the last time I saw something like this, where it was being done at this kind of pace with this many cut corners, it was a national security project. I think Draper Labs has taken over the entire second floor, and either Homeland Security or Draper Labs has something really big going in there. And that's the reason why Maura Healey was just like sign off on it, and why Lowell is just very quietly letting them get through anything they want. We need Freedom of Information Act filings. We need to find out what we can. And I also, you're not going to get rid of it.
Oh no, it's definitely not.
Yeah,
I just want to reduce the impact.
But we should be. But we have to understand what we're not going after a corporation that's trying to pad their pocket. This is a different problem. Okay. At least it smells like something I've seen before. The last time I saw a project that was run this way, this pace, for something this scale, it was something important for the military. Mm-hmm. And so I really suspect we're looking at the same thing.
To build on that and to answer that back, so there were two sites that Draper Labs could have picked. And they being the Markley Group, went to the Mass Office of Business Development to seek an even more tax incentive to lure them to go to Lowell, because otherwise they were going to go to Pennsylvania. I don't know where that data center was in Pennsylvania, but I don't think it was 84 feet from somebody's residence. No, because I'm thinking Pennsylvania has a lot more open space to give that buffer zone.
But it's a hell of a lot farther away from
Draper Labs,
yes. Corporate offices. Yeah.
Lily?
I see we've got 5 minutes left, so I want to ask you, how can we help in this group here? I know you said come out to the meetings, but there's got to be more. How can we help?
So, I mean, it's basically put the pressure on. If you've got political connections, the pressure. Maura Healey is somewhere out, or rather, like, the Democrats are the party of the people. I'm an independent voter. I lean Democrat, and I am floored. And when I tell this story, I went to a conference in Memphis, Tennessee. When I tell this story, they're like, "You're from Massachusetts?" Mm-hmm. That's the thing I always get, like, how you're in Democrat land. That means they're supposed to be protecting you. How the hell is this going on? And that is the question that I've been asking myself for many years, because you see this down south play out all the time. Mm-hmm. And it's the Republicans who usually don't care, getting political for a hot second. But that's where all the badly sited data centers are down south. When I bring this one up, they're like, who's that company? And then on top of it, how the hell did this happen in Massachusetts? The question I've been asking myself forever.
Yeah, to help answer your question, first of all, as I think everybody knows, Jake's organizing and his group's organizing has led to a lawsuit being filed against Markley with Yale Law School representing people, especially around that sort of secret agreement that was made with the DEP.
Yeah, that was really the driving.
So that, we should follow that and see what happens. Secondly, as you probably know, because of that same organizing, the city of Lowell passed a moratorium stating that there can be no data center expansion or new data centers in Lowell for a year from whenever it passed, which was a few months ago. And there's going to be public meetings to discuss that. There was a motion at City Council that there be a public meeting to talk about zoning rules, for example, for data centers. The theory behind the moratorium was there's no zoning rules for data centers. So let's make some rules, but what motivated it was the Markley situation.
They didn't follow the rules to begin with. They shouldn't be allowed to go back.
But here's the thing, right? Does the city have any ability to fine Markley, even if it is a token thing, right? Like if
$187,000 a day.
Yeah, I mean, yes, there has to be some financial consequences for this, right? Like, how can we ask for it? See, I am for honest future for Lowell. I've made it very clear. However, beyond that, like, beyond, and I'm also a political candidate, but beyond that, as a person and a resident of Lowell, how can we make sure that we talk to the city to have some kind of a consequence, right? Like if the moratorium is broken, if there is like small things that are happening, there has to be some consequence, right? What right now Markley is doing, Markley has proven time and time again that they are bad neighbors. The trust is broken. The trust is broken. They have not done anything to actually either earn or gain back the trust, right? Those are facts. Okay, now that is done, we know that the state is like doing backroom deals. So then what is the city government doing? And can we have the city government, even if it is a token fine, make some financial repercussions?
They won't
Every
pay it.
day,
But we could at least find
Yeah.
them. The public would care.
being out of compliance with
Against
their
time.
zoning permit, the city could find them on a daily basis for, could issue them.
Then it's like for once the zoning is actually figured out for that. Right now, the question that we've had for years is how is this light industrial? Especially with that many diesel engines on site, light industrial. For Prince Macaroni, they had a boiler room. That was it. And all of the stuff, by the way, for Prince Macaroni was located inside the building. All of the noise-making equipment to make the pasta, you didn't hear it because it was inside. Everything that they're like, oh, when you go inside the building, all you hear is like a gentle hum. And instead outside, we've got a jet engine of like AC condensers and other things that are hanging out outside that face us.
But I want to talk about the city here. The city has never done any zoning enforcement.
Once.
Also, folks, this has been a wonderfully moving discussion. It's actually one of the best meetings we've had, but we are up against time, and I'm afraid we're going to have to call it. Thank you all so very much for coming out. We can maybe discuss after in the chat or on in person, but we are going to have to say that we will meet you again at the next meeting, which will be June 28th at 5:30 p.m. till 7 p.m. It'll be hybrid at UCC Drake at 10 Arlington Street and on Zoom. And our next speaker will be Jessica Wisaki from Better Health, speaking about LGBTQIA plus health issues. Thank you very much and have yourselves a pleasant evening. And we will see you all again later.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you for having me.
I'm sorry we couldn't talk more. You were wonderful.
Very passionate.
Later, Ryan.
Oh, you had all your ducks in a row, and I have so much.
Stop the
respect.
recording, Martha.